In lesson 3.7b, we're using Cramer's rule to solve a 3x3 system. Remember that with Cramer's rule, each variable will equal the quotient of two determinants. So let's start by finding x. The determinant on the bottom. For the matrix, we just take the coefficients of the variables. And then in the numerator, if we're solving for x, we have to replace the x coefficients with these numbers. And the rest of it stays the same. All right, so to find these determinants, the method that we tried on the last lesson was we rewrite the first two columns. And now we find 6 different products. We're going to add the first 3 products and subtract the following 3. All right, so the first thing I want to do is multiply these 3 numbers together. All right, so I won't show all my work to save some space. 50 times 8 times 5, that is 2,000. And then next, I'm going to do 5 times 2, 5 times negative 2 times 46. So that's negative 10 times 46, which is negative 460. And then next, we're going to multiply these 3 numbers together. Negative 180 times 7. That is negative 1260. And now we're going to subtract the following 3 products. All right, so first up we have these 3. 46 times 8 times 3, that is 1104. Right, minus, now multiplying these 3 numbers together. The first 2 make negative 14. Negative 14 times 50 is negative 700. And remember, we're subtracting negative 700, so it's going to turn into addition. And then our last product for the numerator is going to be 5 times negative 60 times 5, which is negative 1,500. So that one is another double negative. All right, so whatever that equals gets divided by, and now we have to do the same thing on the bottom. These will have slightly nicer numbers. All right, negative 9 times 8 times 5 is negative 360. And now we're going to add this product. All right, so that should be positive. Then 25 times 2 is 50. And then plus 49 times 3 is 147. And then minus. And then next one is 24 times negative 5, which is negative 120. Multiplying these together, we get 18 times 7, which is 126. And then our last triple is those three numbers, 25 times 7 is 175. All right, so if you crunch those numbers in your calculator, you get 1376 divided by negative 344, which equals negative 4. All right, so I won't show x and y because it'll be the same process with different numbers. Let's move on to number 9. So first thing I need to do on number 9 is rearrange it. So I want everything to line up the way it did on number 8. 4x minus 5y, and then I'm going to leave a gap. If it helps you, you could even write plus 0z here for the next equation. 3x plus 0y plus 3z equals negative 47. 0x plus 8y minus 5z equals negative 63. All right, so these determinants will be a lot easier to find because of all the zeros. So whenever we're multiplying a triple that has a 0 in it, that will just equal 0. So since we found x in the last problem, let's try doing Cramer's rule and find y. Right, so the matrix on the bottom is just the coefficients for the x, y, and z. And now because we're finding y, I'm going to keep the x column the same, I'm going to keep the z column the same, and now I'm going to replace the y's with negative 2, negative 47, and negative 63. So now I rewrite the first two columns. Right, and now we multiply 6 triples for each matrix. So first one is, I'll go ahead and highlight them all at once. All right, so that first diagonal, 4 times negative 47 times negative 5, that is 940 plus 0 plus another 0, and then minus these next 3 that I'm about to highlight, that one, and that one. All right, so the first one was 0. And then negative 63 times 12 is negative 756. Remember, we subtract these 3. And then minus again, negative 5 times 7 times negative 2 is 70. Right. For the bottom, we're going to do that one, and that one. Looks like those are all 0. So I really don't need to write anything for those. Those all had 1 0, so they will all equal 0, right? And then we have to do these triples, right? Another 0, and then 2 non-zeros. So for the 2 non-zeros, remember that we are subtracting now. So minus And then the first non-zero was 8 times 3 times 4, so minus a positive 96. And then the next one is 25 times 7, minus 175. Right, so we end up getting, on the top, we have 940 plus 756 minus 70, which is 1626. And on the bottom, we have negative 271. And if we divide those, we get negative 6. And because all of our equations had only two variables, we can plug in that y and pretty quickly get the other two variables. So if I plug in negative 6 right there, I end up with 4x. Negative 5 times negative 6 is plus 30. Right, so 4x equals negative 32, x equals negative 8. And now we can plug in to either of the other two equations to find z. So I will go ahead and plug in negative 8 right here. So you get 7 times negative 8 plus 3z equals negative 47. Negative 56 plus 3z equals negative 47. So 3z equals 9 and z equals 3. So our final answer in alphabetical order is negative 8, negative 6, positive 3. Right, and then going back to number 8, you would have to use Cramer's rule to solve for one more variable, y or z, and then you could use substitution to find the final variable. And that is it for 3.7b.